Hello, welcome back to Aliens Watching Reality TV. I'm Erika.
And I am Josh.
And we're talking about Love is Blind Season 8, Episodes 3 through 6. The final 3 of the 6 full pod episodes that nobody asked for.
Nobody asked for. I'm sure somebody did. Somewhere in the world, somebody.
I mean, I won't lie.
Yay.
I didn't hate these. Like, it wasn't hard to make myself watch them. Like, I think these people are fundamentally boring people, but I wasn't bored.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was, there were too many twists and turns to like not be hooked for a minute, you know?
Yeah.
If you're a curious person.
Yes, which you probably are.
And one hell of a cliffhanger, by the way. Sorry. Yeah.
And brought up some interesting topics, a couple of which we will explore more in depth in bonus episodes on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/alienswatchingrealitytv. It's just $5 a month, which, wow, what a steal.
Yeah.
Here, no way, man.
Yeah, and we have like extra, I don't know, several days worth of Patreon content. If you want to just grab some chips, lock yourself up in a room, and just do nothing but listen to our Patreon content.
Yeah, like other people will tell you, hey, that's not healthy. Parasocial relationships aren't real relationships. We're not going to tell you that. We don't judge. You can just listen to our voices for multiple days on end. I don't care. So should we just jump in?
Yeah. Let's just jump into the pool of water that is episodes 4 to 6 of Love is Blind Season 8.
Perf. So we start with Sarah and Ben. Last time we couldn't remember any of these people's names, but this time I wrote them all down.
Yeah.
So Sarah is the one with the gay sister, and Ben is the one who pretends that he's not a raging far right Christian, even though he obviously is. And she wants to talk about politics and see what his opinions are about George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. Josh, what do you think of this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, for those that are not aware, the George Floyd protests were I mean, in Minnesota, right?
In Minneapolis, I believe they're saying
it was in Minneapolis, and
in their
so this was
city.
And if so, you live in Minnesota, this is something that should have affected you. So she's trying to figure out if it's affected him or not. And honestly, really, the answer that he gives is the answer that you kind of expect from somebody who's just not interested in other people's lives in terms of making other people feel safe or making other people's lives be better or not like under oppression. Basically, he just doesn't care. He's doing okay. So he doesn't care about racial justice. He doesn't know anything about it. He just says something like, "Oh, I just didn't get involved," or like, and
he said,
like,
"Yeah, Black Lives
I didn't
Matter.
vote in the election." And
I'm not one way or another on that. It was like, if police shoot Black people, I'm not for that, but I'm not against it. Like,
yeah. It's really incredible. He repeatedly basically lets her know that so far he has not cared. And then
I'm surprised
when she
he
says
didn't lie more, to be honest.
Yeah, it was very awkward. It was very awkward that he had, like, you're meeting somebody who has no moral standing. Like, he just does not make a stand on any issue, is what he's trying to tell you. You know?
Yeah.
When something like George Floyd happens and, you know, people are out on the streets protesting against police brutality and the treatment of Black people and the racist treatment of Black people, like the fact that you did not get involved in any way, and then you don't really have a real opinion about it, it just tells you everything you need to know. Um, I was like, girl, run.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but the problem was that when they start talking about it, it turns out that Sarah had talked to other people in the pods about this, and they had basically just cut her out, you know? Like they didn't want to be involved with somebody who actually cared about this. So Ben is actually somebody who at least doesn't cut her out. Like that's how bad.
Oh. I didn't really pick
That's
up on that. So
no,
basically,
no, no. She
every
talks
other time
about
she brought this up, guys were like, "Okay, I'm
like
done
it
talking to
seems like
you,
yeah. From
far
her
left
conversation,
wacko."
yeah. From the conversations, she explains that um when she discusses the political beliefs, like it just the guys are turned off. Um,
So she's like, "Wow, this is such an improvement." Somebody saying that they have no
Somebody's
opinions,
actually listening, you know, and not like walking me out.
pretending that maybe he'll consider caring at some point in the future.
Yeah. Because his response really is something along the lines of, my position is whatever your position on the subject,
Yeah,
without even understanding what the hell the subject is all about. Um, and it
yeah,
really clearly sounds like you listen to this and you're like, oh, so you're just saying this so that you could, yeah, you just want her to feel like it, you know, like you just want her to feel like you are going to do whatever she asks you to do. But the reality is you have deep held beliefs about this. Like it really sounds like you believe things about this issue, because otherwise, how could you, you know, ignore something like this?
I think
Um,
honestly, I would guess that it's not that he didn't have any opinion on George Floyd's murder. He was probably one of the people saying, "Well, he should have just complied." You know, he's probably on the cop side.
yeah. He's just not gonna, he's lying, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
He's lying so that she will be like, "Yes, I'll marry you," and he could go have his 15 minutes of fame. Um,
yeah,
Sorry
and
if this was like a little blunt, but yeah, that just did not look like an authentic representation of who he is. Um,
I
and it
mean,
was also, and if that is who he is, I was like, "Girl, run!" But apparently, there are worse people around, so making him, you know, tolerable.
yeah, and that might be because I've been wondering like why are these answers acceptable to her? Because like she's not thrilled by them, um, but she ends up deciding like good enough, um, and I did wonder like okay, does that mean that like she doesn't really care about these issues and she just sort of like needed as long as he didn't say like I'm a member of the KKK and the Westboro Baptist Church, like that would be like okay, good enough. Or is it that she is delusional and like really imagining, like giving insane amounts of benefit of the doubt, like to the point where like she's not hearing what we're hearing? Um, I don't know. I don't know. Because she also says like she didn't care about this stuff until Trump was elected um and George Floyd was murdered. So like she also spent a long time not caring. So maybe like not caring doesn't horrify her as much as it horrifies us because she
Yeah.
spent a long time doing that herself.
No, this is one of the things where we're gonna have to see more, but the patterns are there.
This is a super normal pattern for white women, especially in more conservative areas. It's
Hmm.
like I grew up in Indiana, and uh, women will just date the worst men,
Yeah.
the worst, and I really like either I don't know, just convince themselves that he's not as bad as he seems, or I don't know if it's like I think part of it has to be out of just like a desperation to be loved and feeling like this is the best you can find. And some of that I'm sure is based out of like really the pickings are slim.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's pretty wild that like she had this conversation with him and decided that like, okay, cool, yeah, this is my
This was good
soulmate, so it's
enough.
good.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, yeah, that's painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reason, she decides like, and maybe it is the he'll change, which a lot of
Yeah.
people
Oh my God. Do you
seem
know
to,
that there's this adage that, men marry women hoping that they will not change, but they do. And women marry men hoping that they can change them, but men can't. Yeah.
I have not heard that before. That's sad.
It's sad because, I mean, it kind of
Sounds
acknowledges
pretty
what?
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty
Women seem
accurate,
to be a
sadly.
lot more malleable in terms of, as they go on with life and they see new things, they're like, all right, I gotta change some things about me. Men just, yeah. It takes, and I say this as somebody who's non-binary, but was raised to believe that I was a man, and I have, I just, man, like it took me a very, very long time. I'm still untangling things. I'm still sitting back and I'm like, holy shit, that thing that I did that one time, that was so fucking not cool. And I just like brushed it aside like nothing happened,
Spill.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to.
And
Tell us all your worst things you've ever done.
yeah, no. I mean, it's nothing that is like moral
I'm totally
failings,
kidding.
moral
I'm totally
failings,
kidding.
basically. But yeah, like I get you. They're, but they are, they're not as bad as a lot of other people on this
No,
episode.
your standards for yourself, especially morally, are very, very, very high. So, I mean, I think it's always a good thing to look at ourselves and see, like, apply the same critical lens to ourselves that we do to other people in the world, and see how we can improve and how we can be better people. But like, yeah, I also know you, and so I know that you do that a lot. And whatever horrible things you've done probably would be like the best things that Ben's ever done,
Oh my God, please.
The
best things that Ben
you
has
on your
ever
worst
done.
day is Ben on his best day. I bet.
Oh
I
my God.
bet.
Yeah. Do we move on from this train wreck?
Well, I mean, we might as well just,
Wrap
talk
it up.
Yeah. So, they get engaged, and she decides, yeah, he's okay. He's my twin flame. Sounds good. And then they meet, and I feel like they are both like conventionally attractive people, and so
Yeah.
I think she's really pretty. I think she's prettier than he is.
I think she's prettier than he is, definitely.
But yeah, so it feels like she could do better in many, many ways, but hopefully she'll figure that out soon. But yeah, at least as far as their meeting goes, they're like, ooh, yay, ooh la la, mwah, 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 we're in love.
Yeah. I think I really am trying to think of things, but there's just nothing. There's this complete blankness of boringness. You're
trying to think of what?
Of how this stuff went when they meet, and but it was so it's so conventional. I don't remember
vanilla
anything.
Pudding.
Yeah, I do remember her showing the ring afterwards and be like, "Look at this!" She seemed very happy about getting engaged. So
yeah,
good
and
luck
I do feel like so often on this show and in life, that's what people are really wanting and what they're really excited about. And it was sort of like she was just trying to find like who's a guy who like at least like crosses the absolute lowest standard that I have, and then found one. Yay! But then, okay, so let's move on to even weirder shit.
Oh my god, even weirder. I love the way you describe it. Even weirder shit.
Well,
do we go
Devin
to our
and
villain,
Brittany.
or do we go to
We're going to Devin and Brittany.
All right. I mean, it's like all the remaining stuff is just all really, really weird. So let's go.
Yeah. And maybe that's why they're like, we need 6 episodes of this shit because these people are too strange.
Devin and Brittany, yeah.
Yeah. Because this is when Devin is like, all right, time to be vulnerable. I used to be addicted to ibuprofen.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was incredible to hear that. I'm like, what? That's you and I both, my friend.
Well, it's like you can't take 20 ibuprofen a day. Like, how are your kidneys? How's your stomach line? Like, I just really wonder, like, was he actually taking opiates and like he doesn't want to say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't be addicted to ibuprofen. Or is it really just like the worst thing that's ever happened to me is when I got an owie so bad I took a lot of ibuprofen?
Yeah, I mean, maybe ibuprofen is sort of like a metaphor here for other more powerful painkillers. But yeah, I don't know. Like, he gets vulnerable about it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if ibuprofen is like addictive. I need to look that up.
It's not. It's not. It's not. I can tell you, it's not. You cannot be addicted to ibuprofen. That's not a thing. But you can like damage your organs
by taking too many.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing. Like, it's not that hard to like cause yourself some real damage, like in your kidneys and liver and stuff from taking too many over-the-counter pain meds. Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So yeah, I don't know. What's your read on Devin, just in general?
He rubs me the wrong way. I don't think that. Yeah, he just rubs me the wrong way. And part of the reason that he rubs me the wrong way is the conversation that he's about to have with Brittany.
Yeah. I mean,
so our conversation, like all roads lead to having this conversation with Brittany. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Brittany opens up. Okay, Brittany opens up.
Also, let's start with first when he tells his boohoo, I was addicted to ibuprofen story. She's really, really empathetic and like listening. And he's like, wow, thank you. I just knew that this was like a safe space where I could open up and you'd be non-judgmental. And I felt like I could tell you anything. And so that's like that's the background for what makes her think like, okay, this is a good time for me to open up.
Yeah.
He just said, this is a safe space. But yeah, if you want to tell.
He said it's a safe space for him, not for everyone.
He's like, I meant for straight people.
Yeah. So it turns out that Brittany had a secret that she didn't tell him so far. She doesn't make it sound like it was a secret, but the way that he reacts, it's like it's the first time he's heard of it. But Brittany basically explains that she's not straight. So she's some kind of queer. And she's had relationships with women before, but she wants to marry and settle down with a guy. Like, that's what she's has always wanted. So like, she doesn't want to be in a relationship with a woman. Like, that's not what she wants to do. She doesn't want to get married to a woman. She doesn't want to raise a family with a woman. She wants to have like a conventional hetero thing going on. But this does not mean that she has not dated women before. And she was actually, it sounds like she was in a relationship with somebody who actually wanted to marry her. She didn't want to do that. And we don't know how long ago that was. And so he shares that with him. and he just goes quiet. Like he goes quiet, and he's just like, I'm just processing this. Like he doesn't get mad.
Gigantic news.
Yeah, he doesn't get mad or anything. He just sounds like he has a lot on his mind. It's as if she has told them that she is like a convicted felon, and that she's like on probation for the next 5 years. And she has like absolutely no money. She's bankrupt. Like the way that he reacts really is that magnitude of a thing of her telling him this.
Yeah, it is like, I committed murder, but it was justified, and that's why I got a light sentence and I just got out. Like,
yeah.
Whoa, I need to process this. But
Yeah.
there's like, I've dated women in the past. He's like,
yeah,
my
and so
head
when
is exploding.
He keeps doing that, like he keeps processing that, and she at some point is like, actually, would have been really nice if you had been more affirming. You know, like it really does not sound. It would have been like she expected something different. She expected this to be like a safe space where she isn't judged, as opposed to suddenly Devin's like, holy shit, you know? Yeah. And so she expresses that, and he's like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like, I need to think about this. And like, yeah.
Well, he doesn't understand the difference between being bisexual and being polyamorous. So he's like, are you still into women?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm still into it. Yeah. It's the question. Like, the way that he starts framing it just sounds very like it doesn't sound like he understands the whole concept, or you know how. Yeah, he just doesn't seem like, kind of like how Ben says, I'm wherever you are. You know, I'm on your side. That's what he's
worse.
Yeah. This is even worse than that. Like, it's not even. Yeah, he's not saying it with you. He's like, he has no idea how any of this goes.
I don't know. I need a minute to figure out how icky this is. This whole part, enraged me. I found, sad and frustrating, and because her insistence, Brittany's insistence that she sees herself marry a man, I think is less a statement of how her sexuality, like the layers of her sexuality, and more about like compulsory heterosexuality. She wants to be normal. You know, and she lives in a place where marrying a woman would mean a super different life, because you would always be, it feels like taking on a life of never fitting in, and a lot of, being judged. And if you have the option of marrying a man and like having a quote unquote normal life, that feels a lot easier. And so I understand like where she's coming from, but I still find it sad. And I think his reaction sucks ass, because he's like so taken aback and so surprised, which, like, I've seen a lot of people defending him and saying like, come on, he wasn't prepared to hear that, and he needed some time to process. It's like, you never know what you're going to learn about somebody. Like, every single thing somebody tells you, like, you're going to go, oh, I need to think about that. Like, the fact that she played and coached D1 basketball is way, way more rare than the fact that she's dated women. Like, if it's just, she's telling you stuff that you didn't know she was going to say. When she said, I played and coached D1 basketball, you should have been like, whoa, I need 10 minutes to process this. But like, no, it's because he's biased. It's because it's the homophobia.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I see people like twisting themselves into knots to try and say why this isn't biphobia or homophobia, and like, just it is. Having a preference to date straight people like is the same thing as having a prejudice and a bias against bisexual people. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It
yeah,
shouldn't surprise you that she dated. Like, you should have had this conversation inside your head,
yeah,
a
you
long
should
time
be,
ago.
yeah. If you are not homophobic, then you should be prepared that you are sometimes going to meet gay people, queer
Yeah.
people, um, uh, in your life. They're gonna be around you, and that you um are that you think that that's normal. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you really think I never thought I was going to encounter a queer person, like that says
Yeah.
something big about you. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, as somebody who came here as an adult, like an adult immigrant, I was like in my early 20s. Started dating someone, and at this point, I'm super pro gay rights. But I've only been in the US for like a year, and I'm super pro gay rights. Like part of several communities. I start dating someone, and they tell me that they had been in a long term relationship with a woman. I'm starting to date a woman, and they've like similar situation. I was totally like reassuring, everything's fine, but like I was uncomfortable inside because I had never done this, one, and two, I had never thought about it. You know what I mean? I had never sort of prepared myself for this. So what happened was, in the span of the next few months while we were dating, I thought about this and played out the scenario in my head repeatedly, and basically understood the fact that if I'm uncomfortable about this at any point, it's because I am biphobic, and at a time when I'm myself bi. So like I got it out of my system. I worked on that in my head. I did not come out and be like, oh, I need some time to process this. It happens to everybody. I say it happens to everybody because we are raised in an extremely biphobic, homophobic, transphobic society. And so it's really, really hard to not go through life without being exposed to that ideology. And that ideology of hate, is going to come up once in a while in your life, even if you're really careful about it. But it's your job to process that, you know?
that's
And
very
so
interesting. What was it that you were uncomfortable with? What were
I
the,
don't know. It's the
you know?
uncomfortableness was not about any kind of, whatchamacallit. It didn't have a face. You know what I mean? It didn't have a reason. It was just something, like you said, it was something that I had never ever thought about, you know, dating someone. And I was sort of in the place where Brittany is, where I was like, again, this is something that I learned after that uncomfortableness, was that I was sort of trying to be in a hetero relationship because it was safer. And because this person that I was with was not hetero, there was a possibility that I could be perceived as not being hetero. But I was
Oh,
totally okay with that. I was like, fuck that. I'm okay with being not hetero. you
that's an
know,
interesting insight, though,
this
because that
feeling
might
is
be one of the
bullshit.
things that, like, Devin is not comfortable with.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah. No, that was the thing. I was like, this feeling is fucking bullshit.
that's
This is not me. This is coming from, all the hate that I was raised in. And I've dated I don't think I've dated anyone who's straight after that. Yeah. I
yeah.
don't
I
like,
mean,
it just never happens to my head ever. Never comes up. In fact, I'm happier to date people who are queer because it means that they're happy to be with me, someone who's also queer. So,
yeah, that's interesting. I appreciate you talking about that because
no, I mean,
I
yeah.
I don't have that experience. Like, I
Mm,
wasn't raised to be homophobic. But I was surrounded by people raised that way, Um,
yeah.
and I certainly dealt with internalized um,
Mm,
biphobia, um, and because yeah, I knew, like, I was sort of the person early on who was like, well, because I can date men, I will, if and I just won't explore the other parts of myself.
yeah.
Um, and but also I was living in a, really homophobic small town in Indiana. And I've since learned, like, that just doesn't work. That just like to go, okay,
Yeah,
I'll
no,
just
no, just
push down part of myself forever and not explore it. Like it's unfair to you and other people. But
yeah.
yeah, so and we
That was
actually
my feeling about when Brittany started talking about it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that was my
yeah,
feeling, which was like, you are, this might not actually work as you think it will. But at the
yeah.
same time,
I think so. I think that's true because like I she wants to be um she wants to be okay with her queerness and get rid of the shame, and she's not there yet, you know, or at least not at the time of this filming. And maybe this experience helped, you know, push her more that direction because of how she handles this, you know.
yeah, that's what happened. That's what really got me, because
Yeah.
when he started when he really just made it all about himself and his feelings, I was very uncomfortable, and I was like, man, Brittany, you need to run away. Like, you need to get away from this guy. This guy's not okay with you, or who you are. Um, and then, please continue.
I didn't realize that you were leading me in for the layup. Basketball reference. Um, so yeah, no, she shows up for their next date and she is wearing her butchiest outfit that
That's
she
perfection.
packed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect. She
Um,
looks gay as fuck.
yeah. I feel like she's even sitting different on the couch, you know? Um,
Yeah,
and because she realized like I can push this side of myself down even more
hmm,
and try and pretend to just be straight and get that acceptance, or I can be my fucking self and
yeah,
decide that like that wishy-washy non-acceptance like isn't good enough for me, and that's what she decided. And
yeah,
you know, with there's no like wavering, and even though she's still very kind and polite about it, but she shows up and
yeah,
she's like, you know, I that reaction is not what I wanted from you, and I think you are not open-minded enough for me,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. She very
we are not.
respectfully disengages.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah,
she doesn't come in saying, you know, you're a homophobic piece of shit, which I would have wanted to do probably, but she's like, we're not each other's people. Um, and she's wearing a blazer, and it's
yeah.
just,
It's
I
like she
love it.
suddenly went from like straight looking person to very gay looking person.
Yeah. So I really hope that like that experience has helped her see more like, yeah, I do want to choose myself. I want to choose being true to myself and maybe even yeah, explore those thoughts of like why do I feel like the right thing to do or the only thing I can see for myself is marrying a man? Is that maybe based in the homophobia in our culture has equated heterosexuality with marriage, you know? And so maybe it's hard to see yourself married to a woman just because there aren't enough examples of that. Because um, literally, it's hard to just picture it. So yeah, I hope that this experience has helped her just yeah, deal even more with that internalized homophobia and be more and more out and proud. And I do think we should have like a whole bonus episode on the Patreon about being queer, and dating and, uh, yeah, compet and all that because, um, yeah, I've had a lot of experiences of being a queer person trying to date straight people. Would not recommend. So yeah, so yeah, I guess that's it for Brittany. And so Devin is like, okay, time to turn to my fallback plan. And
Uh,
he has a date with Virginia and tells her the exact same story. And she honestly, this really surprised me because she's like, I totally understand because I've, you know, known people who struggled with addiction. And I'm like, you're a doctor. You should know that you can't be addicted to ibuprofen. I'm like,
Yeah. I really
confusing.
felt like Virginia was not so much into Devin as she
I
was
don't see
into
it.
just the idea of getting married.
Yeah. And it does sort of seem like Virginia, because Virginia is clearly like highly accomplished. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I do feel like probably she has accomplished a lot of things by just deciding this is what I want and then making it happen. And now it's got to the point where it's like, okay, now I want marriage and family. And so she's going about it kind of the same way, but doesn't really, might not even be all that connected to the side of herself that like is romantic or sexual. And because in order to get where she is, she hasn't been able to um, prioritize dating and falling in love and stuff. And she seems like somebody with a lot of self control, and that might also equal a lot of high high walls up in between her and other people. But I don't know. It's like I see a certain side of myself in her that like I was like that in college, kind of, where like I was extremely accomplished and closed off to people, and I don't know how to not do both of those things at the same time. And but also I don't think Devin, I don't like I don't see any single way in which Devin is worthy of her. Like not one iota. And their meeting is weird because
Yeah.
they get engaged and then they meet, and then she's kind of like not looking at him and just sort of looking down, but like saying that she's like, "This is awesome," but like she's not even looking at. It was weird.
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
you think?
He's not as good looking as she is.
For sure, for because she's really pretty, and he's just like whatever.
She looks a little bit like Janelle Monáe.
um, I don't see that, but
A little bit from the side. Very little bit. Kind of like
oh,
Megan Faw.
oh boy, oh boy.
No, but she is
Uh,
pretty. She's very pretty.
yeah, and she says like she's shy, and that's why she's having a hard time opening up. And he's like, "Well, that's not gonna really work if we're getting married." But honestly, this whole group of people, like, how do you find a group of people around 30 who um have aren't married and are desperate enough that they would go on Love Is Blind? Like they don't know how to connect with people. Like there are, I feel like a lot of people on this in this cast just like it seems like they have never really had relationships and they don't even know how it would feel to be in one. It's an interesting group of people. I don't know if that's just part of the Minnesota niceness of it all or
Yeah.
just if everyone else is married and that's who's left over, I don't know.
My God. Like I'm telling you. Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I have little to say about Virginia and Devin because I
yeah,
felt like Brittany and Devin took so much time, but yeah, I'm with you on their dynamic. We're looking
yeah,
forward to what happens to them in the next episodes.
yeah. I would be way more excited if Virginia and Brittany dated. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But
All right. So we're
I think they're
moving
both
on.
okay. Yeah, moving on to the square. Of M names.
So we're moving to the square and not the triangle.
Yeah, let's talk about the Madison, Mason, uh, Meg and Alexness of it all. Uh, oh boy.
Let's capture one person and go from their perspective. Who do we start from?
Well, this is your idea, so
Let's start with Meg. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So here's Meg. Meg has met Mason. Mason is really like her person. Like they're very, very similar. It's uncanny. They love the exact same things. They're into the shittiest things. Sorry, did I say shittiest things? But yeah, they're into conspiracy theories, both of them, very deeply. They're really into each other. But then there's Mason also has another connection. And that connection is very strange because it doesn't seem like he has so much in common with her. And the person being Madison. Has little in common with Madison, but there's a sexual tension there. Like,
Yeah.
she's not accessible, so she seems to be more
And
attractive to
she
Mason.
says sexual things and like wants
Oh
him
God.
to be horny.
Oh God. They talk about cream pies and how much she loves cream pies. And we're basically talking about internal insemination.
Ew! Oh my god! You just
Yeah,
made
I wanted to make it just.
Oh boy! Oh man!
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what it was. That's how I felt like when they kept dragging it on. Like, I was like, come on, isn't there some producer who's like, this is yuck and people are not going
Of
to
course,
like
they
it?
knew it was yuck. Of course, but I also think it's important to point out that like the cream pie conversation comes up after Madison has decided that like she's into Alex, and then she
Yeah.
has a date with Mason where Mason says, "I'm committed to you," and Madison literally gets a grossed out face. She's like, "Ugh." And
Yeah.
now this guy is she is not interested in Mason anymore, but she still wants him to be horny for her. So even though like
Yeah.
she is obviously put off by this declaration of commitment, then she brings up cream pies just out of she's like, yeah, I usually like savory stuff except for cream pies. I love cream pies. Like
Yeah.
so it's not only gross but it's like diabolical as far as like when she decided to have that conversation as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was gross on so many levels. Like, on so many fucking levels.
Which one level is actual cream pie? Who wants to eat that?
I love cream
Like
pies.
wait, like really? How?
Yeah, they're tasty. I mean, I haven't had one in a while, but I love cream pies. Yeah,
They're gonna be ruined for you now. Well,
and I mean
uh,
the
I
physical
know, I
food part.
know. Oh my
Okay,
god,
I'm
I
not.
know,
I am not
I know.
commenting on the action. I
Yeah,
have
let's not.
no comments.
Yeah, yeah. This this is not that kind of podcast. Um, yeah. Woo.
Even our Patreon doesn't have that kind of stuff, so
Yeah,
you're
sorry. You got to
safe.
go to my OnlyFans for that. Um,
Ooh, I don't have an OnlyFans, by the way. So
yeah, sorry. You got to swoop into Josh's DMs for that.
yeah.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Don't harass Josh. So, yeah, at this point, Madison is like, she's like a cat who is playing with her food before she eats it.
Yeah, it sounds very. Yeah, she's just dragging it on with Mason. And that's the thing. She is actually interested in Alex. She starts making that clear.
Yeah.
Um,
And she and Alex
but
even basically say, like, all right, let's focus on just you and me. And so it's surprising
yeah.
that, like, she doesn't immediately break up with Mason. It is odd, too, because, like, when Mason's talking to the boys, he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I have this one connection where it's like we have so much in common and I can really be myself and we get along great. She makes me really happy. And then this other one, we just have a lot of, like, charisma. And it's like, it's the one makes you horny. Like, that's obviously not the one to choose. Choose the other one.
yeah. One makes you horny. The other, you have a bunch of shit in
Yeah.
common.
I'm sure, Meg is. Well, I don't want to say anything. I was just gonna say, I'm sure horny things can happen, in that relationship as well. Could have, but yeah. So the whole time this is going on, Meg is still seeing Mason, and Madison even lets it slip to Mason that Meg is only seeing him, which I feel like Madison. Honestly, I feel like Madison starts just like kind of playing with people for fun in like
Mm.
a shady way, because then she even says to Mason, so in their next date after the cream pie date, well, so after the date in which she told him she likes cream pies, um, they have a breakfast date. They've gotten each other breakfast, and he has gotten her an entire cream pie. Um, and she's gotten him an entire breakfast, and then uh, dumps him, and puts him off of his breakfast. But this is the conversation where like she, well, first of all, she says you wanted to keep both of us, and instead you may have lost both of us. And when she tells Meg that she said that, Meg is at first like, no, what? Like, don't say that. Like, just clearly not her place to say. But then Mason, he also tries to walk back his "I'm committed to you" comment. And yeah, what was your perspective on this? Him committing to Madison and then taking it back? Because I feel like this is so divisive. Like, some people are really seeing it as like Mason is a terrible person, and other people are seeing it as like,
I mean, this has happened on this show on multiple occasions. When someone was interested in two people, they asked when they got rejected by their number one, they went to their number two. That's why you have number ones and number twos and number threes on Love is Blind, you know? Um, so, and it's totally possible to have deep feelings for two different people. I felt like him saying it and then her rejecting him should have been that, you know? He's like, all right, well, you know what? You don't want it. I can't, can't do anything about that. I'm sorry. Best of luck to you. And I'm going to mosey on and go on with my life. What I didn't like both of their actions. I don't like that he tried to walk it back. You don't have to walk that back. That's not bad at all. Um, and I didn't like the way that she just kept pounding on it. It felt like she was getting, it just really, it didn't feel like anything was gonna, like, why are you doing this? What are you trying to achieve from this? So he's just trying to save a little face so he can go and try to get Meg. You first of all said something to him that was not your place. You got between him and Meg when you have no right to do that. And now you're just, prolonging this. Like, you don't want him. You don't want him. He can go on his way. Brittany was dealt like a much worse hand, and the way that she managed it is like incredible. Just let the guy go. Like, I felt like she was just holding on to him and not letting him go. When she should have done that like 2 dates ago.
yeah, it does. Because personally, I don't see why it's such a big deal that Mason tried to walk it back. Because when he said, "I'm committed to you," like, it was awkward, and it didn't land right. And Madison clearly didn't like it. She made like a yuck face after he said it. And so it's just kind of true to admit, like, once I said that, I realized like that maybe I shouldn't have said it. But and I think he's trying to, probably trying to rewrite history a little bit and to create a story of where that will make sense now of going after Meg and Meg not feeling like second choice, which is whatever. I mean, I'm not saying it's the most mature thing ever, but personally, it wouldn't have hurt my feelings really. Like if I was in Madison's perspective, like because it's like, yeah, you dumped this dude. You're not interested now. Like he's taking back his commitment to you. Like, why does that matter? Well, like,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you want him.
Yeah, but I think that's it. Is because she even had said they'd talked about breakups before, and she said, "I always do the breaking up," and so like it bruised her ego that he tried to like take back any of because like it. She wanted to win, to defeat him, and then he tried to like pull some of that defeat.
She wanted to be like gloating over there, like, oh yeah, of course you want me, and him like begging her to take him, and like, nah, I don't want you. Like, it just, like, but we've seen this before. You know, guys have done this before, where they are, you know, when they get rejected, they go there number two. Like that's totally reasonable. This is what Love Is Blind is all about.
Like, yeah, and then you convince yourself that your number two was your number one all along. It happens every season. I'm sure it happens in life all the time. And sometimes that, like, sometimes your number two really was your number one, and you were just like, for whatever reason, confused. And sometimes you really did have somebody that was your second choice, but then, like, but you just want to stay on the show or whatever. Like, yeah, all of that shit happens. So yeah, I don't understand why Madison's feelings are like so hurt if she didn't want him anyway, you know? And I do think Madison really puts pressure on Meg to break up with Mason.
Yeah.
Basically, like, you have no self-respect if you don't. And I don't think that Meg would have broken up with Mason if Madison hadn't put that into her head, because
she that's
wasn't
the thing.
talking like that until Madison was having that conversation with her. Sorry, what?
She basically, no, like that's exactly, like she created a situation where Meg would have looked like she was picking up her sloppy seconds, you know? And it was just, I mean, anyone in that situation is going to try to preserve their ego, you know? But
yeah, even though really this is all about preserving Madison's ego, that she would, of course, be the first choice and Meg would be the sloppy seconds, which is so shitty. Because I feel like if you watch you know, all the episodes, Meg and Mason always have the better connection.
No, Meg and Mason definitely 100 million % have a better connection than most of the other couples there. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think he's just...
I mean, how do you find somebody who listens to you talk about the green emerald tablets of Toad?
So true.
And you're like fucking hooked on that shit.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, you're smart, instead of like, wow, you need to see a psychiatrist. Yeah. Yeah. I do think like Madison just sort of treated people like chess pieces on a board and was pushing them around for fun.
Yeah. It was like, here's where things went wrong. Things went wrong when she learned that Meg was interested in Mason and she was more interested in Alex. And instead of cutting it off with Mason so that, you know, Mason can go be with Meg, she kept dragging him along when we really knew that she was into Alex. And then she went outside, like she literally crossed boundaries. Okay. You don't tell somebody that the person you're dating is going to break up with you because that's what you think. That was shitty.
Yeah. And out of nowhere, like,
and out of nowhere. Yeah. Like you just, your job was to go there and be like, thank you for the food that you brought here for me. But like, I think I don't want to be with you. I want to be with someone else. Good luck with your future adventures. Yeah.
It could have been so like low key and, you know,
Yeah.
like low drama, and then they could have just moved on and been with their people, you know? Like, we
Yeah,
could
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
seen 2 happy engagements out of this, but
Yeah. Yeah, like it just
she made it so that there is 0 from
yeah, yeah, yeah. She made it I mean, she made it worse. The worst person that was affected by this was herself because she then like she becomes the villain in everyone's eyes. Like
I don't know, I
nobody's
feel like
happy
probably
with you.
Meg is the one affected the most because I feel like she was the one who had the least agency and sort of things were just happening
Mm.
to her. And um yeah, because Mason like did genuinely do some stupid stuff. Like, he had this good connection with somebody, but he was still like letting someone else manipulate him by just making him horny. Like, are you an idiot? Um yeah, like it was just kind of weird, and like, and it doesn't say great things where it's like, would you cheat if somebody made you like, just like played to your ego and made you horny? Like, it's not a great quality to have, to be so easily led astray by just somebody saying like, I like cream pies, like um
And that's like the
so
worst, most crass thing to like, you know, bond over.
yeah, it's
You know what I
fucking
mean?
weird.
Like on the
Fucking
one
weird.
hand, it's like having that kind of sex shows so much intimacy and like trust and care. And on the other
And
hand, you're
honestly,
just
it's not a good idea in this post-Roe country,
yeah,
Cream
yeah,
pies are
dude.
dangerous.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, she just uses it just yeah, it just felt very vulgar. Like his
Yeah,
personality took a hit. Like his character took a hit from that.
yeah,
Cuz you're like your
yeah. And
judgment is
hers,
just so obscured by your balls.
yeah. Um, and the person who kind of comes out of all this, I feel like, looking the best is Alex. Although Alex does have a couple moments that I thought like, whoa, he's kind of being shady, because he knows that Mason is Madison's number 2 and that she was breaking up with him for Alex. And Mason doesn't know that he's being broken up with for Alex. And like, in the guy zone, Alex keeps being like overly buddy buddy with Mason to the point where it just felt like a little weird. Like, I don't know, did you feel that?
Did I feel that Alex was the
Like,
hero here?
that's the opposite of what I just said. Were you listening?
I was listening. Say that again.
That Alex kept acting very buddy buddy in the guy zone with Mason.
Oh, about
Even though
Mason. Yeah.
even though
No,
Alex
I
had the information and Mason didn't. And like,
so
why are you
this is
going
the
over and hugging him and high fiving him and saying, "Hey, man, yeah, get in there, have a good one," when you know he's going to be broken up with by your girl? Like, that's weird.
yeah, that's the difference between guys and girls, you know?
I don't know what.
I mean, dudes are emotionless dicks. Like he doesn't care about what the other guy might feel later on, you know? He just
I mean,
I did not endorse that. I noticed it. I noticed how like he would be just sitting there awkwardly and like Mason would be just fucking devastated, you know? And he's just like sitting there like I would get the fuck out of there. I'd hide. I don't want to be around. I don't want to be yeah.
I mean, it
Um
was worse than that. He was like coming up and like hugging him and stuff. But
yeah, it's like
actually,
good
I
luck with
mean,
the person that I'm going to be with
yeah,
who's going to break up with you now.
but I
Yeah,
don't think
no.
that's the difference between guys and girls, because honestly, it's pretty similar to what Madison was doing. And so maybe Alex and
Hmm.
Madison were meant for each other because they're both kind of
Oh my
shady.
god.
Like,
Yeah. No,
they
I mean, I felt
talk a
like
good talk about like mental health, and then they have like some weird shady
yeah.
traits.
Yeah. I think the guys just guys just like to pretend that everything's fine. Like everything's totally fine. There's no show of emotion. I don't say guys in general. I mean, like, guys on the other side. Like, there's just no show of emotion. Everyone is just very congratulations, or like, oh, I hope you're doing better. Like, there's not as much conversation and talking, and I don't want to say drama, as on the girls' side.
But I feel like this season, both on the guys and girls' side, people are keeping it quite close to the vest who they're talking to. Because there are some seasons where they're
No. That's
talking about it openly. And I feel like this is partly a Minnesota culture thing where, like, people are really playing their cards close to the vest.
yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. I felt like even then, like, the women knew more than the men, and
Yeah,
even
that's
when the
mostly
men
just
knew, they
thanks to
just didn't
Molly, I
want to do
think.
anything about it. Yeah, and even when guys knew, just they didn't do anything about it. They just kept it to themselves. Is what I
Um,
felt like. More than I guess I should say I felt like the guys kept it more to themselves than the girls did.
I mean, the girls totally did, except for Molly, who was didn't seem to like pick up on you're not supposed to tell everybody who you're talking to. Um,
Mm.
but um, yeah, and then obviously, Madison ends up trying to like pull the strings from behind the scenes, which is weird. Um, but then, so yeah, I guess if we play it all the way out to the end, Meg does break up with Mason, and then let's talk about Madison and Alex's final scene, which should have been one of their like last dates before getting engaged, maybe the date where they get engaged, even.
Yeah, everyone was expecting that because she'd finally, cut the other guy loose.
Yeah. And the vibes start off like, yay, and Alex seems really happy, and um but then Madison wants to talk about the Mason situation, and and Alex yeah, this is another scenario where I see people just have such different interpretations of it, but um yeah, basically Alex is defending Mason, and um Madison doesn't like that. What did
Yeah,
you think of
no.
that? How did you interpret all of that?
I mean, honestly didn't really understand. Um, I mean, I wouldn't do it, is what I'm saying. The way Madison just kept dragging Mason around, and then even bringing him up with Alex, um, and then focusing on it. Um, I was also like, I just didn't like that conversation at all. Like, you shouldn't be in the pots talking about other people. Like, it shouldn't get to the place where that starts happening. But I was more on I would say barely, but I was still more on Alex's side than I was on Madison's side.
Did you think it was bad that um Alex was standing up for Mason instead of Madison?
I felt like if you're in love with someone, or at least you're you're where you are with them, you should not be like, that's not your job at that moment, you know? Defending Mason is not your job, nor is, like, this was not a conversation that you should have been having in that moment. Um but the fact that they have the conversation, um I felt is more on Madison. And
For sure,
I felt like
Alex
he
keeps
was.
trying to move away from the conversation.
Yeah,
She keeps
yeah.
moving it back.
Alex is trying to basically diffuse the conversation, but instead of like just cutting it off, so he's like trying to slowly diffuse it, but it's just not happening. He tries to change the conversation, it doesn't happen. And I think it was at that moment when he was like, all right, I don't feel like I can do this with this person, you know?
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I think, okay, 'cause a lot of people felt like Alex was in the wrong for not being on Madison's side. Like, it's just like you should be on your partner's side,
Yeah.
and um, And like
That was my initial instinct as well.
yeah. And my instinct is sort of the opposite because like
Hmm.
I well, I did think it was weird that like Madison wanted to keep talking about it and demonizing Mason when it's like who even cares about Mason? Like why are you even still talking about him?
Yeah.
Um and he didn't do anything that bad to you. Like why would this hurt your feelings so much? Like if you know, um
Yeah.
I don't get that. Um and I
He
did
was not crushed when I rejected him.
yeah, right? And like that bruised my ego and that means he's evil. Um and at first I felt like Alex um him defending Mason was not for Mason's benefit as much as for Madison's cuz like I and I could be wrong on this, but it seemed to me like he was trying to even make her feel better by showing like, oh, he wasn't trying to hurt you. Like, because that, like, if somebody hurts your feelings by accident versus like plots to hurt your feelings because they want to destroy you, like, that's worse, you know? Um, and so I think at first he was kind of trying to diffuse um, and maybe like make it a little less painful for her. Um, and then, and then it was just her insistence on like to keep bringing the conversation back to that direction, like when he, and like kind of insists like, no, you must see him as evil because I do. I get why he pushed back on that because like I can't do that. Um, and yeah, I thought it was strange that like she wouldn't she wanted to stay in that conversation so much. She was like not she's like I don't even think I can like have a fun time now or talk about the future. So I actually thought she was going to end it. Um so I was surprised when then Alex was the one who was like, "You know, I can't see a possibility of us getting engaged from here. Like I don't think in the time left that we are close enough to that point." Um and so yeah, I was surprised that he ended it and not her, but I do feel like uh she's the one who like that conversation and her insistence on like not letting it go um led to that, and I don't know that he was going to end it if not for that.
Yeah, and I think when you were asking me how he came off, I there were two instances where he came off as something. The first one was how he was handling stuff behind the scene, the way that we were shown with Mason, and he did not come off well. But when it came to talking with Madison, he came off well because first he's, he tries to help the situation. And then secondly, he has self respect for himself. He doesn't want to be like controlled and told what to be focusing on or, like to not believe his own eyes and his own judgment. So I felt like he came better off in that conversation.
Yeah, and I do think like this would have continued to be a problem because clearly like they see people differently. And if
Yeah.
she's going to keep having like enemies and want her partner to also see people as enemies and like that is fundamentally not how he sees people, then like yeah, that would that would be too big of a problem probably to be able to fix. And I'm definitely like I'm more like him. So, my bias is that way of just like I don't like to focus on people that I don't like or things that I don't like. I, I'm not a hate watcher. I'm not, I'm like, let's just talk about like cool stuff we do like then. Um, and uh, yeah, but I also like his. when he ended things with her, it didn't seem to affect him emotionally very much at all. So that also makes me feel like you didn't really like her that much. Like, I don't know how into her he really ever was.
That's a very good way of looking at the situation. I feel like he was. I don't feel like he was really as into her or the whole experiment after a while. I think he was just having fun talking to her. Um, like the idea, but I feel like he was never comfortable in the experiment.
Yeah, he's such an overthinker that I don't know that, like, to really have this, yeah, to have Love Is Blind work on you, you have to let yourself get caught up in your feelings and
You
go
have to be a little desperate.
become irrational, you know?
You have to be desperate to get married and start a family.
Yeah, you can't be like determined to make good decisions.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, this is not. This is like it takes. You need to. This is marriage in like a month. You need to put logic, on the side.
yeah. Um, so it is really weird that we spent so much time focusing on four people who are not going to be in the rest of the series. So that does make me wonder: are we going to see any of these couples um, rekindle things and get engaged outside of the pods, like we have seen some couples do? I mean, Bliss and Zach started it, but now it's like it become a bit of a thing. Nicole and Benaya did it. Uh, And so, like, maybe the reason we focused on these people so much is because we actually are going to see some of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like I was gonna say, um, I definitely think Madison is gonna be on Too Hot to Handle.
Yeah, I think she'd be good at that. That's probably like, yeah, what she's really more suited for. I don't think she should be getting married. Um, I mean, right now. And I don't know. Maybe Mason and Meg, like, they see each other in the airport and they have a big talk and they end up rekindling things or something. I could see that happening.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not making any predictions. I don't know.
So, do we move on from the
Um,
from the
yeah,
from the which from
yeah.
the
So
square?
we just have two final couples, um, men who look almost the same, whose names start with D. Um, Dave, Dave the douchebag, who inexplicably
Oh man.
has had two women fighting over him this entire time, and basically he tells both Molly and Lauren that they're his number one, and uh then is like, I didn't do that. um, yeah, there's. I feel like Molly and Lauren, like, this is going to be embarrassing for them. Yeah, and I feel kind of. It just shows like some low self esteem,
Hmm.
and I. But I'm going to try not to be judgy about that because I think just watching this, they're going to judge themselves enough
Hmm.
because like it's
I
very
felt
pick
bad
me.
for Molly.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Molly.
Um, I'm. I was gonna say why, but I can kind of guess what. But what are your reasons why?
I felt bad for Molly. I felt like, yeah, I really I felt like she's not. So first of all, like I don't feel like Molly is straight. And
I
the
don't know that she's
second
that
thing,
into men. Yeah,
she's never had a serious relationship ever.
yeah,
And this just it seems like she was like, and David is one of the worst people on the show. Probably the worst person on the show.
oh, for
Um
sure.
and the fact that she wanted so bad to like make this happen just made me feel like she just wanted to have like a hetero relationship just to get it done with to like be normal,
Yeah,
um so yeah, did not feel good about it because when um when Molly is rejected, she's pretty crushed, like she's crying about it. And
I do have to say it was a relief to find out that Molly did not know that Lauren was the other person.
Hmm.
Um, because she had kept talking about Dave in front of Lauren in ways that was like, if she does know that Lauren is the one seeing Dave, like this feels manipulative, like to a huge degree, like and kind of cruel, and that doesn't really square with everything else we've seen of her. So that was kind of a
Yeah.
relief to see, like, oh, she didn't do, she was not doing that on purpose. Um,
Yeah.
she just, I think, like, part of it is like she has no dating experience. She doesn't get why you don't just like she,
Yeah.
talk about your guy. Like she's the only one being open and spilling everything. She doesn't seem to even notice. Like you're the only one saying this stuff, and there's a reason everyone else isn't. Um, and she has no dating experience that makes her easily manipulable. Like when this is different, but I had a boyfriend from age 16 to 21, and after we broke up, and then I was in LA, single 21-year-old. In my mind, I only knew how to date like a 16-year-old. I felt uh, like it was just terrifying. I was so unprepared for the way like 21-year-olds dated, and it's like I thought you still like work up to kissing for like a month, you know, and then people are trying to bang on the first date. It was like um, and I feel like Molly, she's definitely at a disadvantage because she has no experience, so she doesn't understand dating. She doesn't understand men. Like she's still making some choices that are kind of indefensible, like her. But that can, I don't know. Some of it can also be chalked up to like conservative upbringing, and then not knowing enough about the world. Because like her conversation with Dave, where Dave's like, "I don't understand why politics is such a big deal. I don't get why politics, like, why would you put your political party on your uh dating profile? Like, that doesn't matter." And Molly's just like, "Yeah, yeah, I agree." And maybe it's because she doesn't realize that he's saying, "I am hard right wing conservative. I have
Hmm.
extremely conservative," like, because that's what he's doing. Like, the pretending to be a centrist moderate thing, like, is a smokescreen for extremely conservative guys. And maybe she really, really doesn't know that. I don't know. Um, but you for sure should not be trying to get married without ever dating. Like, you shouldn't do it when you're 18. You shouldn't do it when you're 30. Have some relationships first. Like, Christianity, you really see the damage Christianity does to people. Like, telling you that you shouldn't have experience in relationships. I mean, it really fucks your chances of having healthy marriages.
Yeah. No, I don't understand how David was getting anyone to talk to him. Um, but I felt like he just found the people who were on Love is Blind to get married because they really wanted to get married.
So I think Dave has chosen people with low self esteem who will be people he can manipulate and nag. And he has tried to put himself in this position of like that they think he's worth competing for. You know, like he's the prize, and he's found people who will respond to that. And then ultimately, he picks Lauren because Lauren wants him more, and does. Molly like isn't like he can't push her emotions to the limits as much, and so like she's not as emotionally invested in whether or not he's going to pick her, and um so which means she's less of a pick me than Lauren. Sorry, Lauren. And he needs the person to be under his control. So yeah, so he picks Lauren, and just Molly, you, what's that say? Missed a bullet?
Dodged a bullet.
Dodged a bullet. Yeah, he dodged a bullet, and Lauren, I hope you learn to dodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, so Dave and Lauren, they get engaged, they meet each other. Like it's this isn't going anywhere good. I feel like it's just obvious. Like, but honestly, the fact that from the very first moment that like at the right at the beginning of their first date, Dave asked Lauren how old she was, and she said 30 or whatever. And so he said, "So you're not attractive anymore," and she didn't leave. Like that set the tone for the rest of their relationship. Like he learned right then, I can be mean to her and she will stay. And
It
I'm
was the
worried for her.
worst.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
And Molly, just like join a nice softball team and find a girl to date, okay?
Yeah. What about roller derby?
I mean, yeah, if you can find that, that's even gayer. So, yeah, should we move on to our final couple, Daniel and Taylor, the short
Damn,
guy and
Daniel.
the Taco Bell nurse?
Oh my god. The short guy and I love the yeah. All right. Let's do it. Let's get to the short king and the Taco Bell nurse.
Yeah. Okay. So, uh, yeah, after having, lots of magical conversations about how much they have in common, like, oh my God, you also love faith, family, and Christmas? This is a miracle.
And Taco Bell? Oh my god, you love
You like
taco. We
Taco Bell?
must get married.
This is one of the things that defines me, and I can't
As
relate
a
to other people
person.
about. Yeah,
And we thought the green emerald tablets of toast were bad.
yeah. No, Taco Bell, that's divisive. Yeah, so they get engaged, they meet, and it's okay.
Nothing to
Like,
write home about.
she does notice that he's short. She says, like, "Yeah, he's my type, but a little shorter." And I did feel like he went out of his way to not tell her his height ahead, which I thought, like,
I mean, are you allowed to tell people your height?
yeah, you're allowed to. Um,
Mm.
because he even just, like, felt like for how much he talked about being short the rest of the time, he went out of his way to not talk about it with her, and that felt a little deceptive to me. Um, not because I think being short matters, but because it matters to him because he's talked about it so often, so that to not talk about it to her feels intentional. But it shouldn't be a problem. She's small. She says it's not a big deal. But then, boom, we get a cut to 24 hours later.
Yeah.
She's crying.
She's in front of a little camera
Yeah.
recording herself.
She's been up all night replaying all of her Instagram notifications for the past 6 months through her mind. This part, yeah, I don't know. What
Well, continue. Don't stop. Tell us why she's worried.
no, I mean, just basically she thinks that Daniel followed her on Instagram in the past, and so he already knew who she was, what she looked like, and he knew about her interests because of what she has posted on Instagram. So he knew that she was a nurse. He knew that she likes Taco Bell. He knew that she likes faith and family and Christmas. And he used this.
And I cannot listen. I need to like emphasize this to our listeners. They both like Christmas as a huge deal to her. Like it's really big.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, she thinks he has used this information to win her over, basically. Like, in
Yeah.
as if, like, sort of a, diabolical plan to pretend he did know her when actually he has
When he
been
did.
Instagram stalking her the whole time. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I do think that her interests are not very specific or unusual. And, like, even if he had followed her on Instagram in the past, I don't think there's that much he could have learned from that, like, to win her over. Like, you live in Minnesota. Like 95% of people are gonna like faith, family, Christmas, and Taco Bell. And I shouldn't say 95% because uh 70. I'm gonna go 70.
Yeah.
uh, but uh but yeah, I don't know, because then she confronts him about it, and it's a weird conversation, but like I feel like because of the editing, we have absolutely no idea what he really said. Like, it makes it look like he's just sitting there with a guilty look on his face. But they could make him look like anything in editing. So until we hear like a longer explanation from his mouth, I don't know his perspective, because yeah, you can cut to like any facial expression and make something look a certain way. So, yeah, I just don't know about this. I thought it was creepy when Lydia did it to Uche, but it felt so much more obvious and intentional. But I don't want to have like a double standard. So, I mean, if he like went on Love Is Blind to get to win the heart of the girl that he followed on Instagram, like that would be weird. But I don't know that like we have enough evidence to leap to that conclusion. What do you think?
I mean, I immediately went to check his Instagram because she was like, I remember, like, she confronted him,
Yeah,
and he looked guilty as fuck. Okay. He apparently followed her. According to her, he followed her, and then she checked his profile and remembered one picture specifically where he's holding a glass of alcohol in his hand, and he's sitting down, and he has his leg up on another leg, and he's in front of a Christmas tree. So, and he was like he completely was like, no, absolutely not. They'd also brought up Instagram, and he completely downplayed the whole thing as if he's never, like, he's not really an Instagram person. And there actually is a picture on his Instagram profile that kind of looks like that picture. Like, he's sitting on a couch. He's not holding alcohol. He's holding a cat and a book. But
and it's a
otherwise,
fireplace instead of a tree.
yeah. I mean, but this is definitely a Christmas thing, and the whole leg upon leg, like, that seemed very specific because he really is sitting in a position where he has one leg over the other, and then the one that is on top of the
What's
other is like really raised. Anyway, so
I
that's the
actually have a photo
evidence.
like that on my Instagram. I have a photo on my Instagram. It's from a couple years ago, but I'm in
Yeah,
front of a tree, legs
yeah.
crossed, drink in my hand.
Oh my God, it
Like,
was you, wasn't it?
so like it's not. It's like
I
these are
mean,
not that
it's
specific or
both
unusual of
evidence for
things.
and against. And part of the reason it's evidence for is because the leg thing, but it's also evidence against because, I mean, why would he be lying about Christmas when you look at his profile and he has a lot of Christmas stuff going on there as well?
Also, just like how much did it really? Even if he knew ahead of time that you like Christmas, how much would that really have benefited him in this situation? Like,
Yeah. But I
don't
really
know.
feel like this is where I am. Where I am
Mm.
is it doesn't really matter if he had followed her or not. She was not into him. Like, this just seemed like a really good excuse to like end things. I don't feel like she was into him. Um as for him following him or not following him and knowing or not knowing what she looked like, I mean, this was a while ago. So unless he really, really knows her, he would not have been able to tell who she is. You know what I mean? Unless he's really, really obsessed with her. And it didn't really seem like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's unlikely. I so yeah,
I mean,
I'm
for
not
me,
very.
it's a situation where I feel like she feels that she's better looking than he is, and this situation also like makes her like suspicious. But if she had been into him more, this would not be an issue.
So that's yeah. I don't. That's possible.
I feel like if she had been into him more, this would not be an issue. The fact that it is an issue is really rings alarm bells that she's not really into him. So Yeah. But that said, if you are going to Love is Blind and it turns out that you did know what this person looked like, kind of like that Uche situation with whatever her name was, yeah, it kind of does ruin the experiment, if you know what the person looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. So
For that person, not for you, but for that person.
and for you, both.
I mean, unless you're into that person.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be seeing if you can fall in love without knowing what someone looks like. So, yeah, that would be cheating yourself as well. Yeah, I'm not super convinced by like her her evidence, but there are a couple of things that he did that do make me feel like there's something to this, because he did bring up Instagram and like what her Instagram handle was and stuff specifically while they were in the pods. And he brought up in the pods, like, do you think we've ever run into each other before? And then another time he said something like, we've probably never seen each other or something. And like that felt like a little too weird and specific. What I feel like is maybe at some point in the pods, he started to like think this might be this one girl that I followed on Instagram. Like once he was putting together stuff, and so that yeah, but he wasn't sure, and like that seems more likely to me than he intentionally like sought her out from the beginning.
Yeah.
What really is wild to me though is just like that. So I think one thing we have to remember, they don't have their phones. So they're doing all of this Instagram history by memory. And like one one thing I am coming away with is I guess I understand a little bit more why like people have been mad at me in the past for not following them back when they followed me, because it's like I do not look at my notifications. And I almost never notice when somebody follows me. So like I've definitely had people I'm really close to follow me and I didn't follow them back. And it is not a power move or something. Like I just didn't notice. But seeing how like these people remember everybody who has even requested to follow, like she's remembering specific photos of a man who requested to follow her months earlier that she declined the follow request. Like that is nuts to me. And like at one point too, he asks her what her Instagram handle is, and she says like T Hags, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't follow you. I would remember because I have perfect Rain Man memory for Instagram handles." Like that's all nuts. Not saying I don't believe them. I just can not understand it at all. But yeah, I guess I do understand a little bit more now, like why people get mad at me for not like replying to their stuff or following them back or whatever, because other people are really, really keyed into their notifications in like a major way. So yeah, I do wonder if like once they have their phones, they get to like get to the bottom of it. It is possible, because she has talked about like she's an overthinker. She gets in her head about stuff. It is possible she's just in her head and like this thing is she can't stop thinking about it, because also they don't have their phones and can't really like prove it one way or another yet. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing or not. I don't know how I feel about it. If he did do it intentionally, then yeah, that'd be bad. But I don't know. I don't know. I think I guess to me, what I come away with the most is like it's really funny just to think that like it's really specific identifying information that you like faith, family, Taco Bell, and Christmas. Like, this, oh, he could have guessed that. Like, I could guess that, and I don't know any of these people. So, yeah, I don't know. I like Taylor. I thought it was like funny when she lost her voice. No offense. I felt bad for her because I've lost my voice at bad times before. I was like, oh man, she
Yeah.
really lost it. Daniel, I think, is a little weird. I do think he's a little weird. Mostly just because he clearly has a complex about being short and won't admit it, that he has a complex about it. He's like, it's all short king season. It's like, you have. Also, are you 5'8"? Because that's not short enough for the level of complex you have. Are you like
Yeah.
actually 5'5" and you're saying you're 5'8"? Because that might explain things a little more. Like, so yeah, I'm a Daniel height truther. I need to know, how tall is he really? Yeah, but I do think, because editing is the way it is, I don't feel like, because I feel like the way they edited it, they made him look really guilty, but they could have edited it the opposite way too. Like, that's how editing works. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's the end of number 6. Uh, any final thoughts? Any couples you actually believe in or are rooting for?
I believe in nobody. Yeah, I don't believe in anybody. Honestly, I don't feel like any of them is. I don't think anyone's gonna make it. I felt like it was very.
What about the 2 golden retrievers?
Those I'm
They got it,
most afraid of because
huh?
I feel like, yeah, those I'm most afraid of because once their families get involved, um, they're gonna try to golden retriever their family as well. So like golden retriever people love to have approval, and what if their families don't approve?
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Hmm. Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
So there's that. But I think out of everyone, they probably have the best chance. I don't see Devin and Virginia. I don't see David and Lauren.
I think they're
I,
the anchor couple that gets married. I think it is as
yeah,
simple
I
as
think that's
they're the first couple to
probably
get
it.
engaged. They're getting married.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how
I
the show
mean,
works.
but everyone else just absolutely, yeah, no. How many
Yeah.
couples do we have left? We have David and Lauren,
Uh, Daniel and Taylor.
Daniel and Taylor. Then we have the Golden
Um,
Retrievers,
yeah, and Devin and Virginia.
Devin and Virginia, and that's
Oh,
it,
and
right?
Sarah and Ben. So we've got 5. We've got 5.
Yeah, yeah. Oh wow, forgot about Sarah and Ben. So we have 5
Yeah.
couples. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could have had 7.
Yeah. And maybe we still will have 6 or something.
Who
I don't know.
knows? Who knows?
I feel like yeah, I don't really like, I don't believe, with the exception of the golden retrievers, who I feel like, are going to get married and maybe it'll be a good one. The rest of them, like, I don't think any of these people like should get married, but that doesn't mean they won't. You know, like,
Yeah.
they might get married. I just don't, like, should they? No. Will they?
So
Maybe.
who are the couples you think are going to get married?
Any of the, like, all of them, like, I feel like they all have a strong chance of making bad decisions and getting married.
Okay. All
Worried
right.
for all of them.
For all of
Yeah. I honestly, Minnesota, oof, you guys are really repressed up there, more than I knew. And I'm worried for you. I'm worried for you as a state. Um, I live in Texas. I can't talk. Anyways,
Oh
uh,
gosh.
we will be back. We'll be back
And we'll be
on
back with more.
Patreon with some episodes, delving into some of these
Yeah.
topics. And
And our
then,
Patreon is patreon.com. Aliens watching reality TV.
yeah,
One
there's a
word.
selection there. Yeah. And then this weekend, yeah, on Friday, they'll drop a new batch and we'll start watching, and
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen? Who knows?
So excited.
After,
Not.
like, I am curious to see, like, why did they give us 6 pod episodes? Like, what was that
Yeah.
setting up? You know?
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a payoff. Maybe there won't. Who knows?
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Well,
Well,
thanks. Thanks for sharing your opinions, Josh.
and you too, Erika.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you next time then.
Till death do us part. Free Luigi
Amen.
Mangione. Amen.
Bye.
Bye.
Aliens Watching Reality TV is hosted by Erika Heidewald and Josh Shahryar. It's produced and edited by Erika Heidewald, that's me. And our theme song is Just World by Erika Heidewald, which is also me. Available for streaming on iTunes and Spotify. For $5 a month, you can subscribe to our Patreon and get an extra full-length episode of the podcast every week. Right now, we're covering Love is Blind Season 1. We'd love to hear from you. Our social media links are in the episode notes, or you can write to us at alienswatchingrealitytv@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and as always, until death do us part. Amen. Welcome to the world. Let me tell you what I've learned about it.